Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Plan for the Magic. We are season 2, episode 3. And tonight, today, or this morning, whenever you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to share some lessons I learned about Genie Plus and Lightning Lane on my trip a couple weeks ago to Walt Disney World. Let's go.
This is another Disney podcast production.
Couples only trip. I bet that was amazing.
It was fabulous. It was so fabulous. I have like 10 episodes worth of material. We're going to narrow things down one at a time. But I wanted to get to like the nuts and bolts of some of the things I learned using Genie Plus straight out of the gates. We did have a fantastic time. You were right.
Hey, we did it a couple times. The last time we did it was 2010, but I remember.
You need to pencil one on the calendar, circle it, make it happen.
Her idea of a great Disney weekend would be on a beach with really blue water. So, but I don't feel safe cruising right now.
Yeah, maybe just park her on the beach at the Polynesian and
Done.
Off you go.
I'll just say, watch out for gators, and I'm off.
Yeah. All right. So there are a number of things that I learned doing this in real time. I was incorrect about a couple of things that I shared before, so I will correct myself. The first one, and Dave, I have to ask, have you updated your My Disney Experience app so that all the Genie Plus, Lightning Lane stuff?
What kind of question is that? Like, when did that come out?
October.
Okay, no, I haven't. No, I haven't. The last time that we went was literally the first 4 days of the 50th. That wasn't a thing then.
It didn't exist yet. You're
and
right.
That's buried like in the Disney folder, and like I haven't even opened it. So
you need to open that and do a screenshot of some fast pass language.
Somebody who does a Disney podcast should probably like Lightning Lane. What is that?
Yes. Well, let me tell you, tip number 1 straight out of the gates is practice before you go. So we will get through some of the details later, but as you are getting to know the Genie system, which Genie is Disney's complimentary system of where it will plan your day for you. It's like a little mini touring plan.
I'm sorry, did you say complimentary? So Disney did something for free? Are you sure?
Remember those days?
Are you sure? So it's Fast Pass, right? No, not at all. Okay,
it's
sorry.
Just, we are monitoring wait times, and we'll try to put the things you want to ride in the order that makes the most sense for somebody. It is also the place for you to learn your Genie Plus. So if you open your My Disney Experience app, you go to the little hamburger menu on the bottom right. Tip board is the top left icon, and that's what you want to open. I did learn in real time, no matter what park you're in, when you open that tip board, it will always open at Magic Kingdom, which is great when you're at Magic Kingdom, but you have to remember to select the park you're in, even if you've opened it 16 times in a row.
That's hilarious.
So I would very much recommend before you go, and especially around, if you're an early bird like me, actually my youngest and I, the week before we went, it was right at 7:00, which is when the first round of reservations can happen. It's really interesting to spend some time on the app at 7 a.m. and see what the next Genie Plus time available is for specific rides, and you'll see them in real time go later and later and later and later and later in the day as they get booked up. So it's just helpful to kind of mess around on the app, get a feel of what rides you want to ride, and just do some scrolling up and down where you're click through. I think that's going to help you have a sense of it when you're trying to do this in wherever you are the day that you're or the days that you're in the parks.
I have a question about that. So when you say practice, is this something you can do you can get up at 7 and see this happen? You can't physically select them if you don't have a reservation for a park.
That's right.
Day, right?
It's not going to let you pay for one, but you can see when the next Lightning Lane reservation is, or when the next Genie Plus reservation is. And if you scroll down, like you pull it down, and it'll reload. Mm-hmm. If you do that, just at 7, 7:01, 7:02, you can kind of scroll down and see how fast, for example, and we'll get to this later on my tips, but Slinky Dog Dash, for instance, goes really fast.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to just watch it on a day that you aren't there to see, oh my gosh, when the crowd levels are this high, Slinky Dog Dash Genie Plus are done by 7:05. Like that's it. If you haven't booked it. Now, people cancel and change their plans. And so always checking while you're in the park is important. But to get a sense of that is really, I thought it was super helpful doing it a couple of days in advance before we got there.
Okay. That's smart. It's a good tip.
Yeah. So tip number 2, and this is a correction from what I said before, I think. So you are allowed, so who can purchase Genie Plus? This is a difference between annual pass holders and people who have tickets or are staying, like have a package. If you choose to do Genie Plus every single day that you're there, you can pay for Genie Plus well before your arrival day. But you have to be paying for every park ticket day. If you have an 8-night stay at a resort and you have a 4-day park ticket, you're only paying for the 4 days of Genie Plus that you have a park ticket. But if you have an annual pass, you can only purchase it the day that you are in the park. And that can happen after 12 midnight. So I recommend that reservations begin at 7 a.m. for specific rides for specific people. So don't wake up at 6:55 and that's when you plan on buying Genie Plus. You're going to need to get up. You can either stay up late and do it at midnight, or you can wake up about 6:30 is when I would recommend you purchase Genie Plus for that day. So that's every annual pass holder can only purchase it one day at a time. If you have a package or you're there for multiple days, but you only want Genie Plus for your Magic Kingdom day, or you only want it for your Hollywood Studios day, then you have to purchase it after midnight and ideally before 7 a.m., which is when they open. So
the point of that is you don't want to get up at 6:55 and then think you're ready to go, and then you have to go through a whole purchase process, right? That's the anchor, if you will. It just weighs you down. Yeah, so it's nothing like those of us who were used to Rise of the Resistance when it like changed from having to be at the park at Odok 30 to just getting up, like as I would set my alarm for 6:55. Yep. Like pound. I'm in and back to sleep. Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's right.
That's good to know.
Yeah. So purchase the Genie Plus sometime before 7. And then tip number 3 is and we did this, I have my chart. Hold on. Let me find it. So just a quick reminder, we've already covered this, so I'm not going to go into it. There's rides that you can access the Lightning Lane through Genie Plus, and then every park has 2 individual Lightning Lanes that you pay for to ride once that are not included in the Genie Plus. If you are choosing to purchase a Lightning Lane and you're doing Genie Plus at the same park at the same day, all of those reservations open at 7 a.m. for people who are staying in a resort on property, but book your first Genie Plus reservation first. Yeah. Because anybody who has a park ticket can book their Genie Plus reservation at 7 a.m. Only people staying on property can book their individual Lightning Lane at 7 a.m., which means...
And for everybody else who's not staying on property, what is their time?
They do it once they enter the park.
Yeah. Big difference.
It's a huge difference, but that means, and I got confused about this when I was there. I knew one of them, there was like the Thing and the Seven, but because there's way more people booking the first Genie Plus, you're going to want to knock that off first. And again, if you practice at home, you'll notice these trends at 7:15, 7:30, 8 o'clock. Yep. You know, there's plenty of lightning lanes there's plenty of time for the individual lightning lanes available.
I think that's the biggest, I think one of the biggest or most important things to talk about, because those of you who were, Disney lifers or Disney lovers that were always going, like, you knew, like, most of the time you would get a little bit past midday, maybe a little bit later, and almost all of the fast passes were gone. Well, that's not really the case with the lightning lane. You can get them pretty much all day unless it's an insanely packed day. But even then, I think it still kind of runs really well. And so that's one big difference that I think is worth noting. So now, what is worth noting, though, is that, like, let's just say you're a Dave and his family, and you get to the park at 10:30, and some people literally got to pick them 3.5 hours ago. You're probably looking later in the day before you hit your lightning lanes, but they'll still be available.
They will. And actually, it doesn't matter that you're not in the park for your Genie Plus. You can book that at 7 a.m. I think for the individual lightning lane rides, you're really okay. I don't think there's a huge rush on those. There was actually a really great blog post, and we'll put it in the show notes, that WDW Prep School, Shannon over at WDW Prep School did, that walks through this whole process of like, when can you do what? And I'm staying on property, I'm staying off property. I've booked this, I booked that. But she uses data from thrilldata.com, which I didn't even know existed.
Whoa, me neither.
And she identified the rides in each park that go the fastest, which was really helpful. And in Magic Kingdom, it is Peter Pan and Jungle Cruise. So again, those aren't the headliners that you're paying an individual lightning lane for, but they do have long waits. And so people are booking those quick.
Yep.
Epcot, it is Test Track. Hollywood, it is Slinky Dog. And let me tell you, as someone who was trying to book that Slinky Dog Genie Plus thing, it went really fast. And, I forgot to write this down in the notes, but when you do your little pull down and you get your time, you click on it. In the time it takes you, so you've clicked 150. Let's say I've clicked 150. In the time it took me to select Andrew as also in my party and then hit purchase, I was bumped to like 4 p.m.
Oh my gosh.
Without any notification. Like, it just changed. So...
Oh, wow. After money as they had exchanged hands, you thought 150 and it was 3 hours later.
That's
2 hours later. Holy cow.
So if you're having to click like 5 members of your, when we go back in the spring, it's going to be all 4 of us. So you really have to be a little flexible, and we'll get to how you can work around a later when your first Genie Plus ride is later in the afternoon. Don't panic. There's a way to work around it.
Great.
And the Animal Kingdom is Kilimanjaro Safari. Now, this doesn't mean that they all go at the same rate. I actually think Slinky Dog is the fastest. We got a late Peter Pan Genie Plus when we were in Magic Kingdom already. Didn't have problem with that, but the Slinky Dog one went. And we were also at Hollywood Studios on a Saturday. It was pretty crowded that day. So, okay. So tip number 4, just quick review. Tip number 1, practice before you go. Number 2, buy Genie Plus well before 7 a.m. Number 3, make your first Genie Plus reservation before your first individual lightning lane reservation. Now, number 4 is to understand this every 2 hour sort of rule.
Okay. Is this like #pound the app?
A little bit.
Okay.
So let's say, and we'll use my experience at Hollywood, which again, I'm so glad to have actually done this in real time. And I'm, as my sweet youngest said, Mommy, you can make all the mistakes you want with Daddy because you're just going to learn and it'll be better when you're there with us.
I love it.
Like, that's right, buddy. So I knew that Slinky Dog was going to go. So I pull that down and get that first. And it ends up being late in the afternoon. I did that at 7 a.m., but a new clock starts at park opening. So for Hollywood Studios, the clock starts at 9 a.m. Every 2 hours, you can book another Genie Plus, even if you have not used your first reservation.
Oh.
So Slinky Dog for us was like 5 p.m. So they want to make sure that they make it worth it for you. So you're like, I'm not going to purchase this whole thing if it really only buys me one ride at 5 p.m. That doesn't make sense. So park opens at 9. And this is where it gets a little bit fun because then you have a Genie Plus you can book at 11. You have a Genie Plus you can book at 1. You have a Genie Plus you can book at 3 before you use all of them. And so if you do this well, you can book a whole late afternoon, evening full of rides.
Oh, nice.
We didn't quite do it that way, but if you wanted to, I've heard in the Disney stratosphere, they're calling this stacking. So you are slow to make your reservations, but you're basically making all those reservations for late in the afternoon or early evening. And then once you start, you put your magic band and you start chiming in for each one of those rides, then you can book another one.
Yeah. Okay. So this for my pea-sized brain and other people that are used to it. So this kind of reminds me of a little bit like it was in Disneyland a few years ago. And that was, they were still doing paper fast passes. The Max Pass wasn't available yet, which is now come and gone. But how it worked is you could only hold one fast pass at a time. But what was cool about it is you could hold one from each park because, like the parks are literally across. So we got our first time there. We got there, ran into California Adventure and got the Cars Land Radiator Springs Racers, and then ran over to Magic Kingdom and got whatever we got, or ran over to Disneyland and got whatever. So that was the trick there. You could only have one, but you could at least have one from each park at a time. And then as soon as you, it was like a time thing. As soon as it hit within like that hour, you would go to the kiosk and then do it. So anyway, that's how my brain kind of processes it, which none of that is similar. Even exists anymore. But
but it's helpful to have a frame of reference and how do I, what can I compare this to?
Yep.
I will say, so let's say you've booked your second one at 11. You are going to book your next one at 1. And you are standing right outside the Millennium Falcon. You pull it down at 1. There's a 1:10 Millennium Falcon. You're like, well, I'm obviously going to pick that. You pick that one, you go in at 1:10 and scan, and then at 1:10 is your next 2 hour, like you have to wait another 2 hours from 1:10 to 3:10. So it gets bumped by like 10 minutes if you choose to book one and use it right away.
Okay.
Which was a little confusing to me, but I will say on the app, it's really helpful. Like if you try to book something, it'll say, Audrey and Andrew are not available to book a Genie Plus until 3:10 p.m. Like it's pretty clear about when you're allowed to do it. And also just a reminder that I didn't put this in as a tip, but if you have purchased Genie Plus and you have a park hopper, you can take it to the next park.
Yes.
It's not only designated for the park. So that's like that, I would say every 2 hour rule, but it was confusing because it doesn't, if you book your first one at 7, it doesn't start, you don't get to do your next one at 9. It's really an every 2 hour rule starting at park opening.
Okay.
Rule number 5, this is an untested tip, but it's one that I'm going to put into practice when I'm there with my children. And this is, you need to designate in your party what I have called a Genie Plus pilot. So you need to decide before you go, these are the rides that my crew wants to ride. And one person needs to be pulling that thing down and selecting the next Genie Plus park time. The last thing you want to do is to have a whole family together and somebody say, what do you guys think we should do? Should we do this at this time or this at this? Like, nobody wants that, because you're going to have to make that decision about a dozen times during the course of your day. This is not really a planned day before, because you don't know what's going to come up.
Right.
You don't know where you're going to be in the park. So what I'm going to put, this is in theory, I'll let you know after our spring trip if this actually works. But I think the ideal here is to have some kind of Genie captain, Genie Plus pilot who knows what everybody wants to ride. They're navigating the times, and they're just making the selection next and saying, hey, look what we got next. We're all going to Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. Let's go.
That's very smart, because when you have your family of 4, everybody feels exactly the same and thinks the same way and wants to do all the same things, right?
Yes, that's always how it goes in our family.
So yeah, we'll just surprise and delight. Oh, look, we got Big Thunder Mountain. Sweet.
That's right.
Yeah, that's really wise. That's really wise.
Yeah, I printed out, and I'm sure we can find one to post, but I literally printed out, like, these are the Genie Plus rides. So y'all circle what you want to be riding, and I will take it from there. Because even just between me and Andrew is like, well, we could do this one or we could do this one. And I was like in real time thinking, oh my gosh, if my kids were here, this would be a complete nightmare. Like someone just needs to make some decisions and go for it.
I like it. Now, I will say, like, to go back to something you said earlier, I don't know, it just popped back into my head, so I wanted to talk about it. This is a wishful 2.0 that I don't think is going to happen, because I feel like they could have solved this with Rise of Resistance. And that is when you talked about like opening it up and then you have to choose your party. I wish that, like, I mean, I wish that you could select that and then it was there, and it was there for the duration of your trip. Like, I feel like that. I mean, I get it. It's a lot of code. It may be really challenging. I also wonder if you like how I'm like, hey, I hope they do this. And then I can tell you all the reasons why they're not going to. But some of it may also be like, the system probably needs the time to buffer everybody that's coming in all at once. And so that probably helps slow it down versus because the influx already is pretty big. So I wonder if that extra step does like stack it a little bit better for the system. But I just feel like that because, well, I mean, I haven't played with this at all because we know I haven't even updated my app. But is this the case like every time you go? So when you started it at like 6:55 in the morning, you got ready and 7 o'clock hit, were you doing more than one or were you only doing one?
Yeah. So the nice thing is at 7 o'clock, you're making one Genie Plus reservation. Right. That's it. And then you could make up to 2. You could purchase the 2 individual lightning lanes that you wanted for that park. So you're done by like 7:05 and you go back to sleep.
But my question is, if you did that every single time, do you have to select your party?
You do.
Yeah, like that. Yeah. I think that's the thing. Like, I understand.
It's the same way, like, you have to select the park. Like, that to me, I felt like,
drives me crazy.
Like, I'm in Epcot today. Yeah. Like, I've told you, I've reserved my spot. Like, please make it start,
Like, if you don't think that we don't know that you know exactly where I am, what I'm doing, and when I'm going to do it. We know you. Exactly. Anyway, that's like more wishful thinking. I know there's obviously a reason behind it, but I've always struggled with that. Like, even before when we would pick our fast passes, like on the website, I would do, like when we booked our trip, I would almost always do that on the computer just because it was bigger. I could have multiple windows open, like we could do it together as a family. Even that, it was like you do it and you're like all the way back and you start all over again and you like pick your park and pick the people. Like, there's no way that this isn't cached to a way that the system knows who you are and who's coming, but whatever.
Right. I mean, I do think, and this is actually one thing that's really nice. I mean, so not everybody in your party has to purchase Genie Plus. I'm actually thrilled about this.
Yes,
I really assumed that it was going to be the same as like the dining plan where one and everybody has to do it. But like, you have a little or an elderly person or whoever just doesn't want to be riding all the rides. That's great. You only have to purchase it. And the same with the individual lightning lanes. So you, of course, just purchase it for whoever in your party wants to ride that particular ride. But yeah, it does seem like the default should be everybody. And then for the few rides that not everybody wants to ride, you could deselect who doesn't want to do, like a headliner.
So I guess it's pick your poison, but
I know.
I want to be able to pick my poison and I can't. See, that's the problem. Let me kill myself slowly.
I have one more tip, one more lesson learned, and this one is for Team Daniels. And honestly, I think we're going to do this when we go.
Oh, boy.
I think Genie Plus days make great sleep-in days.
What?
I know. Here's the situation. So exactly how I described before, if you make that first Genie Plus for late in the afternoon, maybe even the evening, you're going to get your second one at 11. You're going to get your next one at 1. Especially if you're purchasing individual lightning lanes, which I will say, I did not clarify this. I didn't know this until I got there. Genie Plus gives you the next available time. Individual lightning lane, you can select a time during the day.
That's lightning lane is the most similar to the fast pass system.
Exactly. So like before we got on our airplane, I knew we were going to be at Epcot on our Friday arrival day, and we wanted to do Remy's. And so I woke up at 7 and booked, but I was able to select a Remy's time that was like 8 p.m. or something. I don't remember when we wrote it, but way, so we didn't have to worry about
how much was it that day? Because I know that.
It was $15.
Wow, per person, right?
Per person. Yep. Man. I know.
Printing money.
The budgeting that's happening for our spring trip is not insignificant, I will tell you. And I was like, more than once this happened where we decided to do extra early morning hours at Magic Kingdom. It was on a Sunday. It was 30 some odd degrees, which I don't know if the weather affects the rides, but we're all there. I first of all did not know that Adventureland and Adventureland and Frontierland are not included in Magic Kingdom's early morning magic hours, whatever they're called, the 30 minutes that you get to go early. So it's Fantasyland, Tomorrowland, all the people who were rope dropping who had not done an individual lightning lane for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, it was down.
Oh, gosh.
Everybody went to Peter Pan. The wait at like 8:35 was like 2 hours.
Oh, my gosh.
And that was really it. Everything from Haunted Mansion all the way through the Jungle Cruise was not even open at 8:30. So I mean, I get it if you really have a tight budget and that 30-minute window is your only chance to get in line and you've stayed on property, but you're waking up early, you're getting there early. It is one of those, like, I'm waiting an hour and a half so I don't have to wait an hour and a half or 2 hours. Like, and then if it doesn't work out, and I have also did not happen to us, but I have seen it happen with Rise on for people who aren't purchasing that individual lightning lane and they're rope dropping it and it breaks down or it isn't working, and there's just not a lot of fallback to that. So I think the way we're going to roll, we will do Genie Plus for Magic Kingdom. We will do Genie Plus for Hollywood. Personally, I don't think we need to use it for Epcot and Animal Kingdom. We may do an individual lightning lane for Remy's or Frozen. Right before we jumped on here, I looked at the wait times, and Frozen was longer than Remy's.
Yep.
Which I actually had a dream that my husband and I were still there, and we were like, should we just wait for Frozen? What do you want to do with Frozen? And I think those 2 days that we do Genie Plus, we will do individual lightning. I mean, I will say the Rise of the Resistance is worth every freaking penny of that individual lightning. It was really remarkable. But I think we're going to either spend the morning in the pool, or I don't know, just do some shopping or whatever. I didn't feel like the reward was worth, again, this is if you're spending money on Genie Plus and doing those individual lightning lanes, if you're doing that for one day, take the morning off and roll into the park at 11 and you're going to be fine for the rest of the day.
I'm really glad that you talked about that, like early morning magic, the thousands of people that are there, and they're obviously there because they didn't want to pay for a Genie Plus for Seven Dwarfs, and then it's down, right? So shameless plug. Our last episode of Another Disney Podcast, we literally we titled it, Disney Has Some Issues, ... Right. That can't be fixed. And one of those things that we talked about is, like, of all the different things, like, that's a big, when you go, expect ride closures, expect ride issues, and they're going to hit, like, and expect the unexpected, right? You know, like, because could you imagine that, like, you're going to have somebody in your party that Mine Train is their favorite ride, and you guys probably even thought, like, hey, at least we're staying on property so we can, and then that happens.
Yeah.
And so, you know, our episode was not a negative, like, it wasn't a complaint about Disney, but it was worth talking about. And I love how Brandon and I kind of navigated through them and offered some suggestions, because these are most of these things are out of Disney's control, right? That's if they set down if there's a ride closure because they're painting and refurbing a ride, that's a whole different thing.
Different.
And you should definitely go online and research that. You can go right on Disney's website and it'll tell you the ride refurbishment schedule. And so plan your trip accordingly. And if you go in the wintertime, there's going to be like every year Splash Mountain is down at this time. And it's not because it's cold. They're just painting it and doing regular maintenance. I mean, that's a massive ride. Anyway, I just thought that was a good way to shamelessly plug our latest episode.
I love that. And I think the solutions is really important, because you're right. This is going to happen. And so how do we work around it? Yeah. And in that vein, I did learn these are addendums because they're not on my official list, but we purchased an individual lightning lane for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. It was down during our window, so it turned into an unlimited time. So we could have gone back anytime during the rest of the day. It also could have been used for a different ride, which I don't know why you would have done that, because you paid for it. Yeah. We chose to leave, like, we decided we were done. And so we just went to one of the guest services and they refunded us. So it is possible.
Oh, great.
Yeah. I was like, I didn't even know. I'm like, so what do you think about this? Like, is it possible? She goes, oh yeah, we can totally refund that. So I was thrilled about. I thought that was great customer service. Not that I expect anything less from Disney. And then the same thing happened for Genie Plus. So we had a Genie Plus for Peter Pan. Peter Pan went down during our window. I'm trying to think if we had that sort of held, or if that was the last remaining Genie Plus. I'm not sure if we were able to reserve a second one and use it, or because the same thing, like, it could have been used for Peter Pan the rest of the night or any other ride. Right. And there are some weird restrictions, like, I can't remember what the restrictions are at Magic Kingdom, but I'll have to research that to see how that works. But we went to dinner. We had a fabulous dinner at California Grill. We decided at the last minute to come back into Magic Kingdom. We were like right at the train station for the fireworks. It was brilliant. Fantastic. And then everybody else was trying to leave, and we went back and rode Peter Pan.
Nailed it.
Open until 10, and we still had that Genie Plus. So it was great. Yeah. So those were two things that were helpful to learn. If it does go down during your window, it becomes a timeless thing, and then you can get your money back if it's a paid one, which means we still haven't ridden Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. So.
Oh my gosh, you still haven't ridden it?
We never did it. Yeah.
Holy cow.
No, we'll go and
that's really good. Spoiler alert, I like it better than Rise.
Well, it was Rise was, I don't even know how to talk about that. That was like a whole thing. It was amazing.
It is definitely amazing. And even as I don't know I think I fell into the trap of, not to go down this rabbit hole, but I think I fell into the trap of everybody went crazy over it. Right. And then I get there and I'm all like, I mean, it was awesome. It was cool. Like, if I never rode it again, I'd be okay.
Yeah.
But Mickey and Minnie's Railway, I want to go back every time. Like, cause it's just like, I think part of it is like, Goofy's my favorite character. And I know he has his own roller coaster, but that roller coaster is absurdly tiny. I think it lasts 19 seconds. But like, you know, he's driving the train. I won't give any spoiler alerts, but you know,
yeah, don't. I haven't. That was one of the things I have not seen a thing about that.
Oh, great.
I somehow kept my head in the sand about Rise.
And like, I mean, it's not even cool that you're like, I don't want to say anything else to ruin it, but like, there's just like, it's like to me, Disney started with a mouse, right? And that's the only attraction that includes Mickey Mouse. And so that's why I think I like it so much.
I'm with you.
Yeah. I'm with you. I mean, Rise is incredible, but like to me, I think the Queue and the Falcon is way better than the ride. The Smuggler's Run. Yeah. This like it is. I mean, but like I don't like, and I just thought the Queue for Rise was kind of like, eh.
Well, that's the other thing is, I mean, I think using these lightning lanes, you miss some of that.
Right.
Like and I will say, I read before that sometimes your lightning lane can be a 15-minute wait or so. Mm-hmm. We did not have that experience. We were like trying to keep up with the people in front of us. Oh,
that's phenomenal.
Riding right on everything. So,
and you were there at a pretty busy time.
It was pretty busy. It wasn't Martin Luther King Day weekend. It was the following weekend, but it was like, I think a 6 or 7 out of 10.
I was watching the crowd. Yeah, I was like,
there was a lot of people there. Yeah. But
great. Thanks for the update. I have something to tell you.
Okay, what?
I learned a lot.
Well, good.
Because I literally I need 101 for when I go because I haven't experienced it.
We'll do a refresher before your trip.
Love it. Thanks, Mom.
Right. Yeah. See y'all.
Okay, bye.
Bye.